Ha! Right on. Figured I'd... What do we got going on here? Showing a couple bear skulls, deer skulls, deer antlers. Anywho's it. So, did you know, everybody, that the Ursus americanus, the black bear, is the smallest but yet widely most distributed bear species in all of North America? Didn't know if you knew that, but you know now. Pretty neat, huh? I'm gonna raise this up. There we go. That's how it should be. Looks a little more professional. I didn't need no crotch shot. Here, let's do that. Too much crotch showing down there. Anyways, hey, do we have the guy from Eustace? Maybe the guy from Spain? They might show up here a little bit later. So those of you that are watching right now, last Monday, today's Monday night. This is Monday the, what is it, the 22nd or something? Anyways, it's Monday night. A week ago on Monday, we had a couple gentlemen from Maine, northern Maine, and even someone from Spain talking about his blackbirds. Because he was like, we don't have black bears here, but we have blackbirds. But so anyways, so if you're just chiming in here on this live stream, I mentioned just about a minute ago that the black bear is the most widely distributed bear in all of North America. They're the smallest species of all the bears, but the most widely distributed. The black bear is an extremely adaptable animal, as the white-tailed deer is. But today, I'm not talking about that topic or subject. I'm talking about black bear denning behavior and denning in general and hibernation. So how neat is that? The biologists Myron Means and Sarah Lida, these two biologists I learned a lot from. And these were guests on Clay Newcomb's podcast, the Bear Hunting Magazine podcast. And Clay Newcomb also has a podcast called the Bear Grease Podcast. Yeah, here's another bear. I was blocking him. I shot this bear, and I'm getting sidetracked just for a second. I shot this bear with my bow in Canada. This is a Canadian black bear. This is a black bear from Maine. And this skull back here, that's a Maine bear. And then over here, this big bear skull here is from a 280-pound black bear I shot last year. And I have another bear skull over here, another one here. I have two more black bear capes in the freezer that I'm going to do the mounts on myself. I do my own taxidermy. So I've shot many black bear. I got a lot of black bear to my credit. But I want to mention, before I dive in here into bear denning behavior and bear hibernation behavior and stuff, I want to mention that I'm a graduate from Unity College in Maine, and I've gone on actual real live black bear tranquilizing, black bear trapping excursions with the state of Maine bear biologists, Randy Cross and his colleagues. So I've gotten to hold bear cubs in my arms, and I've gotten to be present while real biologists, black bear biologists, drew blood samples, bone marrow samples, and when they ear tagged and radio collared and tattooed the inner lip of black bears, real live black bears. So I've had that experience, and I've obviously had a lot of bear hunting experience. And I listened to a ton of podcasts about black bears, especially Clay Newcomb's podcast. So you got to check out Clay Newcomb's Black Bear Hunting Magazine podcast, Clay Newcomb's Bear Grease podcast. And so Myron Means and Sarah Lida, these two biologists, what I've learned from them is, and this is really neat. I don't know if you knew this, but black bears, they're in a sense in a way, not real true hibernators. I don't know if you ever heard this before. This is kind of a debate that's been around for eons on whether or not black bears are real, true, down-to-earth hibernators. Now, this was clarified in a podcast, a Clay Newcomb podcast, by Myron Means, this biologist, and Myron Means also, he's a huge part of the Western Black Bear Foundation. I don't know if you've ever heard of this Black Bear Foundation, the Western Black Bear Foundation. Myron Means is a big part of that, and he's also does a lot of bear research and studies and stuff, and also works with Sarah Lida, another bear biologist. Myron Means clarified this about whether or not black bears are true hibernators or not. How he phrased it was like science today, the science as it is today, and the biologists studying the bears today, they're really buckling down on this. And now they're stating that it's not that they're not true hibernators, they're actually the most efficient hibernators. Believe it or not, I was floored when I learned this really cool fact. The black bears, they can turn off hibernation with the flip of a switch. Yes, believe it or not, these really awesome creatures can, just with a flip of a switch, say today, oh, I don't want to hibernate. Or tomorrow, flip the switch to on and say, oh, I need to hibernate. I need to go into the state of torpor and lower my heart rate from the 80 plus beats per minute to like 25 beats per minute. Yeah, that's what kind of happens. The bear's heart rate, when going into the hibernating kind of torpor state of being, if you will, and that really deep, long days on end, weeks on end, months on end, sleep and rest, they lower their heart rates from the 60 to 80 plus normal beats per minute. That's the same normal beats per minute for humans too. At least my Apple Watch had been telling me, and my beats per minute have been like 60 something to 70 something. And that's about similar to, they're a mammal like as we are. We're mammals, so are they. But they can lower their heart rates to 25 beats per minute, maybe lower or a little more, some really low. But what's really cool is while that happens, to allow them to go into that really deep state of torpor, that long slumber, their body temperature stays the same. They don't sacrifice body heat and body temperature, but they do lower their heart rates to go into that state of hibernation, if you will, for better lack of words, or torpor. That's really cool that they can do that. And also, this biologist, Myron Means and Sarah Lida, these two biologists, they've said in podcasts I've listened to and learning from them that these black bears, while they're going into hibernation, the cold does not affect them. Now, you've got if you have ever shot in a black bear before, I'm getting a lot of people on here, and I'm going to pause briefly. I'm going to get back. Help me to get back on track. Let's see. We've got on here Austin. Hey, Austin, how you doing, buddy? We've got Remy. Remy, Austin, Remy, Country Girl, Country Life. Said hi, Country Life. All right, Country Life. That sounds like a cool YouTube channel. All right, everyone's just saying hi so far. No questions yet. Okay, good, cool. But stick with me. How many do we have watching? Okay. All right. I'm still waiting for the guys from Eustis and Stratton area to come on here. And that guy from Spain. How cool is that? I had a guy from Spain listening in and learning about black bears. He was telling us in the chat and stuff here all about his blackbirds out in Spain. Okay. So I just wanted to make sure I wasn't missing a question. So let's get back on track about hibernation and stuff, and how I was talking about how the cold doesn't affect the bears during hibernation. But and why that is, you got to figure they're extremely thick, fatty animal. Now this is going to lead me into another topic about the reasons why a bear might need to go into that really long state of torpor and hibernation, and reasons why they might not need to hibernate. And that is, they're very dependent on their calories and their energy reserves and stuff. They're calorie energy dependent creatures, in that like they really don't want to expel like a lot of energy and a lot of calories, more than they're taking in from their food, from their environment. They they could go into like a calorie deficient, energy deficient kind of state of being, and heaven forbid starve to death and just die out there somewhere. And how wasteful would that be? How that would be just awful. And us humans, we don't want to be calorie deficient, energy deficient, and that there are a lot of humans that do suffer from these type of ailments, and we've got to take certain vitamins and things and supplements and see doctors regularly. I mean, they don't have that ability to help save their lives and stuff. They can't like just walk into through the hospital doors and stick an IV in their arm and everything they need to kind of build up their energy again and their fat reserves and stuff to survive and avoid starvation and go on to live by. Yeah, so in the months leading up to winter, before the time of year when they might need to go into hibernation, the bears, they must consume a lot of calories. And in some cases, in the early spring, late spring and summer months, they really don't need to pack on the calories that they do the months right before winter, like say August, September, and October, November. Those 3-4 months leading up to the dead of winter, the harshest times of winter, when there's like 2-3 feet of snow on the ground and the temperatures are below zero and stuff. The bears need like 25 to 30,000 calories a day in those months leading up to winter. But backtrack into summer, when they have a smorgasbord of food, they have more than enough to eat. Especially in August, when all your berries are on. August, September, you're getting your blueberries, blackberries, raspberries. The acorns are starting to fall late August, so through September and early October. So they're getting the acorns and beech nuts and cherries from black cherry trees and all that stuff. In the summer, they have obviously all your herbaceous, your herbaceous forb vegetation, your forbia. That's your broad-leaved, kind of woody stemmed vegetation. The forbs, that's more nutritious and more important to them and deer and stuff than your smaller herbaceous vegetation in the way of like grasses, clovers, plantains, and sheep sorrel and things like that. Your forby type herbaceous vegetation would be like plantain, would be your goldenrods, and let's see, like yeah, if you know what a goldenrod is, but you get the gist. I'm having a brain freeze here because I'm forgetting my plants. Strike one for Justin. So the long story short here, if the black bear aren't able to pack on the fat reserves through the calories they're intaking and through all the nutrients and fats and nutrients and vitamins and minerals and calories and stuff that they're taking into their system from all the food in their environment, if they're not able to take in like 10 to 20,000 calories worth of that food in the summer months, and 25 to 30,000 calories from like late August through November, if they're not able, and that's a day per day, they need that 25 or more thousand calories a day. If they're not able to consume that much each day, then they could potentially go into a calorie deficient state, an energy deficient kind of state of being, and it's gonna trigger their brains and their bodies and stuff to tell them, hey, I need to go hibernate. That's when the switch will turn on for them, telling them, okay, time to hibernate. And they can go, these black bears can go to wherever it is in their home ranges. And I'm going to talk more about this in detail on their denning sites, on how they like to den up, and like the types of areas and stuff they might search for, look for to go to den and hibernate. I'm going to go, this is all leading into that topic. And so, yeah, the light switch went on because, oh no, Buddy the bear here wasn't getting that 30,000 calories a day. And he's like, oh no, I don't want to starve to death. I need to go hibernate. And so he could lower his heart rate, get himself into that torpor state, that really deep, deep sleep, where he could sleep for days on end, weeks on end, and just rest up. But this is another fact that I've learned from biologists like Myron Means, Sarah Lai, but I've also learned this back in college at Unity College, where I graduated from, and from courses I've took in college, and from the Randy Cross, the main biologist, black bear biologist stuff, and his colleagues. I've learned that black bears oh my word, I lost my train of thought. Because we're talking about them going, oh yes, yes. The black bears, they periodic. This is actually why a lot of folks believe that black bears aren't true hibernators. Hey, buddy. It's because black bears, they can just on a whim periodically awaken in the dead of winter, especially on like a warmer than normal kind of winter day when the sun is high, like maybe midwinter, later winter, when the days do get longer and warmer and the sun's beating down on the forest floor, warming the forest and stuff up. It could be above temperature, like a warmer, 20 degrees warmer than normal on a particular winter day, and it could arouse a bear up from his slumber, his torpor, and they could just periodically randomly awaken in the dead of winter and get up, stretch their legs, and wander around, and sniff and smell and listen, and they do that, and they do that periodically off and on all through the winter, and wherever it is they're denning and hibernating, they can awaken and stir and move and stretch and stand up and stuff. So that's just really neat. That your true hibernators are like your ground squirrels, like your groundhogs and your chipmunks and you're like opossums, raccoons, and bats and stuff. That those are critters and animals that will stay asleep. They stay in hibernation for like 4 months straight, and they will not awaken. That's true hibernation, where an animal does not awaken at all, unless actually like disturbed and forced to. But that could potentially kill that animal if they're forced to awaken from a true hibernation. But black bear, they're alert when they're in their den in sites and stuff in the wintertime. They may hear noises, or maybe they smell something, or their eyes open and they see something that can arouse them, waken them up. But that's okay. They're used to that periodically awakening, getting up, stirring in their den in sites in the dead of winter during hibernation. So these are really cool facts about black bear hibernation behavior and stuff, and I wanted to share all that with you guys. And this leads me into the next topic about where black bears may den up. Now there's several different types of dens, and this all has to stems from where you live in the nation, in the country. There's the mountain areas of the country, and then there's in your southern portion of the nation. Well, there's mountains that go from the northeast all the way down, obviously, to the Carolinas. If you got that mountain range on the eastern portion of the United States. Then you got your Midwestern mountains, your northern mountains. So in like mountainous areas where there may be a lot of ledges, lots of rock crevices and stuff, bear can climb into rock crevices, cave-like areas to den up, hold up for the winter months, or to go into a deep state of torpor for a couple weeks if the food isn't available, if they're not getting the calories they need each day. And so there's that style type of den. Then there's also dens that, see, my family's coming up the stairs. Maybe you'll get to meet my son, Bryson. So let me pause here briefly to see if we got any questions. We've got William on here. What does a bear need more, water or food, when they come out of the den? That was a great question, William. And I wanted to talk about that. Obviously, the black bears are extremely warm, hot animal in the summertime, and they're an extremely thirsty animal. If they're packing on this many calories a day, 20 to 30,000 calories a day, they also need tons and tons and tons of water. And that's why actually bear hunters, like, they do well to choose a bait site that's close by a water source, but also in other natural travel corridors for the bear, areas where bear naturally normally travel through from food source, and they need to have that water nearby, because if a bear's at a bait site eating tons of food, packing on those calories, they're going to get extremely thirsty. They need water in addition to the food, obviously, to help digest stuff, food. But as far as William's question goes, what does a bear need more, water or food? In all reality, bears, just like deer, I didn't know if you guys knew this, but I'm getting into some deer facts, but this is bear talk. We're on the topic of bears. For my next string of videos to be uploaded on my Spikes and Gills YouTube channel is going to be all about bear and bear biology, current events and current research around bear and bear hunting and stuff. But I'm going to later on get into the deer, moose and deer and all down the road. But so William, a lot of the water content, H2O, if you will, the agua, a lot of the water that bear and deer, a lot of the mammals and wild animals in the forest, a lot of the water that they get to their system is from their vegetation they're eating. You've got to figure all these plants that the bear are eating, plants are full of water. That's what they're drawing up through their systems to help for the photosynthesis, to produce the food for them, the sugars and stuff, and the food that they need, and ultimately to photosynthesize and to release carbon dioxide stuff into the environment, into the air and stuff. So they're getting a lot of the water from what they eat. So long story short, really it's the food they need more, because what they're eating is also giving them water content. But they are going to seek out actual water sources, ponds, streams, natural springs in their mountains and the forest around them. So they're going to drink a lot. But in addition, they're going to get a lot of the water from the plants they eat too. And deer, that's how deer, a lot of people don't ever observe white-tailed deer, drinking at water holes all the time. That's because they're getting a lot of what they need in the way of water through the vegetation they're eating. But deer will drink too at source of water holes, just like as bear will, and so on and so forth. So I hope that answered your question, William. Any other questions? No? So we're talking about the denning sites, what bear might seek out, look for in the way of a den to hibernate. Bryson, do you want to come say hi? My son Bryson's making tons of noise down there. So I just answered William's question. I hope you got it. So we've got on here Austin. It's Austin Outdoors. Mr. Remy. Country Life said hi. William. Oh, William, I think, was on here last Monday. He got a crown. Shout out to William. He's got crown number 1. He's a super fan. And then Mr. Remy, he got a... Oh, yes, thanks. Yeah, no problem, William. So I answered William's question. Hey, bringing on the questions. Hey, Bryson, you want to come say hi and answer this question for William? Oh, my cat Lincoln over here. I've got a coon cat in the litter box over here. My son pointed to him. So anyway, I'm getting sidetracked a little bit, but because I had to stop and answer William's question. But okay. So I talked about the crevice style type cave like. I mean, we're in the northern eastern part of the United States. Where I'm in Maine, we really don't have caves per se. But there's we go into the mountains, we can find tons of rock crevices, like outcropped rocks and ledge jetting out from the mountainside, creating like an undercut. It's somewhat of like a cave, like it's more or less just a crevice or a crack in the ledge on the side of the mountain. Bear will use these type of areas to den up and go in their deep state of torpor. But also another really cool denning type site, and this kind of den site that I'm going to mention is going to lead into my next topic about denning behavior, sow and cub denning behavior, and that's big, huge tree trunks with openings in the top, where like a sow can climb up the tree trunk and crawl into the crevice and the opening, the top of the tree trunk, and climb down into the tree trunk. Sows that don't have yearlings with them. Sows, obviously, you probably know this is common knowledge that sows will keep their cubs with them for a couple of years of life. It's not until the cubs are about 2 years old, and in some cases even not even until they're 3, that they're considered kind of teenage bear or just adolescent bear that are going to eventually disperse throughout the forests and mountains wherever they live to go find their own way of life and find their home range, if you will, and go on their merry way. Sows a lot of times will hold her cubs for a good 2 years for sure in the state of Maine. In some cases is almost until they're 3. And so at that type of denning site, an opening and crevice within a tree trunk is a little small for a sow with yearlings, wouldn't you think? But a sow a sow that's going into winter pregnant, and that just made me think of delayed implantation. That's another fact and subject I want to get into in a later video and live stream about the sows pregnancy and stuff, delayed implantation stuff. So the sows, they enter winter pregnant, right? And those without yearlings can use this type of denning site to give birth in the dead of winter. The cubs that are not yet born, they're born only like 5 ounces. They're born hairless, about 5 ounces. They can fit in the palm of your hand. And when they're born in the den, you want to say hi, Bryson? Denise, you want to say hi? William says hi. I answered his question just earlier. So the den, my family. Hey, am I wrong to smile for my family, my son and my wife, as they're off to bed? It's late here. It's almost past my bedtime, everybody. But so the cubs are born hairless, about 5 ounces, 5-7 ounces, maybe even smaller in some cases. The cubs, when they're born, they're crawling up the belly fur, the hair to the teats, to the mama's teats, where they'll nurse throughout the winter months until they come out of the den in the spring and the warm, when the flowers start growing, the grass start growing. I mentioned earlier in this live stream that black bear can periodically awaken throughout the winter months, especially on a warm winter day, warmer than the norm. That can sometimes make a bear stir and open their eyes and listen, smell, kind of get up and stretch their legs and rotate and move around. And in some cases, the black bear will walk around the forest immediately around their denning area where they're hibernating and stuff. But the sows, they can still awaken, get up, move about, and adjust themselves. And they might climb up to the opening of the tree trunk den that they're in, look out the opening of the tree trunk, look around their environment and stuff, and look and listen, smell, and crawl back down. And go back into that state of torpor and allow so their cubs can still nurse and stuff. So that's another denning type site. It's just a hollowed out tree trunk. It's that type of den site is perfect for your sows going into winter pregnant and stuff. Boars, your male black bears, for the most part, clearly they're not giving birth. They don't have to worry about cubs. So they really don't need denning sites that provide lots of security cover and lots of shelter from the elements and stuff. So this leads me into the third type of denning type site, and that is just a ground nest. Black bear can find a blow down, a natural just blow tree that fell and blew down, toppled over. They can crawl up under the tree, the log and tree trunk of that blown down, leaned over tree, and they can dig the ground out, make like a depression, and line it with ferns and leaves and other material and debris around them to make like a bed style type ground nest under that blowdown. The boars, your male bears, will most likely go into that deep state of torpor, sleep, hibernation, if you will, however you want to word it, type of state in the wintertime when they need to, and they might just choose to den up in a ground style type nest. And that's just one example of a ground kind of nest like thing. See, back in college, in Unity College, when I went out with the biologist to a den site, these biologists told me and the other class members in my class at the time that they weren't expecting all 4 cubs to be alive. We were going to a sow that they'd been studying and monitoring. The sow was radio collared. They could hone right in on her with their radio telemetry gear. They knew right where she was denning. And this sow was a very small sow. She was a full-grown adult sow, but only weighed like 100 pounds live weight. And she gave birth to 4 cubs. And the biologist told us that to not be surprised, or not to be expecting to see 4 cubs. They weren't expecting to see more than maybe 2. They figured maybe a couple of them didn't make it. So we get to this den site, and the biologists, they tranquilize Mama to immobilize her so she doesn't become a threat to them or us students from the college. And then once they got Mama stabilized, they were able to motion us all to come into the den site. And then we were able to like hold the cubs and stuff while the biologists went about collecting their samples and stuff, blood samples, bone marrow samples, and doing other research and stuff they had to do. And believe it or not, all 4 cubs, they were surprised. The biologists were really happy and shocked to find that all 4 cubs were still alive at that particular time in the winter. It was like middle of the winter. And the biologist told us if those cubs could make it 2 more months through the rest of winter and spring, then all those cubs would most likely go on to live a full life unless they got struck by a vehicle or shot by a hunter or something. But they said they could go on to live as long as they would have. And now this den site was a ground nest, and that's shocking to me that the sow 4 yearlings, they weren't little itsy bitsy hairless baby 5-ounce hairless cubs. They were, at this point in time, these cubs were almost a year old. I mean, they're born in the dead of winter. Because these cubs were all fully haired. They were born, actually, no, they were just extremely small cubs. Holy cow, yeah, because Mama was only 100 pounds. And so she gave birth to really small cubs. So they were already just about a year old, not quite, because they were born in the previous winter, but they were coming up on their first birthday. These cubs, they were almost a year old, so that's why. But they were just extremely small cubs, and they really relied. They needed a mama. That's why I stated earlier, several minutes ago, that the sows will hold on to their cubs for as long as 2 years, and some cases almost until they're 3 before they disperse, go on with their lives and stuff. So that's another denning type site. So that ground den that the sow had her cubs in was lined with, I remember seeing ferns in there, some kind of like pine boughs and just random leaves and other vegetation. There was like some plantain. See, there was, yeah. Anyways, there was wood sorrel leaves in there. There was all kinds of leaves and vegetation stuff lying in the ground. She had it pretty thick too. The ground nest. She had layers of vegetation and stuff on the ground to insulate her from the cold ground. And she was kind of tucked up under some really thick entanglement blowdowns and bushes. There was a lot of saplings and kind of shrubbery type bush type stuff growing up around this entanglement. She was tucked right in there up underneath all this stuff. The biologist actually had to crawl in up underneath the blowdown to get the couple of the cubs out and stuff. I think Mama went running when the biologist went into this ground nest den type site where the sow had her 4 cubs. The mama went running with 2, and 2 cubs followed, and they were able to tranquilize Mama and immobilize her. And I remember seeing the biologist run through the woods going after the couple to catch the 2 cubs. 2 remained in the den. I remember that. So how neat is that this sow still had her 4 cubs? They were all still alive at this point in time in the winter. So that's really cool. So I'm straying here big time, but that was a 3rd den type site, a den that bear will utilize to go into their hibernation. Let's see, a 4th type of den could be just a ground excavation. The bear can obviously, look at the claws on this guy here. Yeah, they definitely are capable of digging. They can excavate and dig out the side on the side hill, a den, if you will, a place like a hole or to crawl into to sleep, go into their torpor state of being in the winter months. So that's a 4th type of den site. And then pretty much you got to think outside the box here. Myron Means and Sarah Lida, these biologists that I've listened to on podcasts and stuff, especially Clay Newcomb's podcast, they've talked about about this denning behavior and all these different types of den sites that they've found bear in. They found black bear that they had radio collared and that they were going to find out in the forests and the mountains with a radio telemetry gear. They found them in the oddest of places, hibernating and stuff. So I mean, they think outside the box. Really, they really just pretty much hibernate at whim, at will, just wherever they feel the safest and most secure, where they're out of the elements and stuff. So I'm going to backtrack to the beginning of this live cast where I was talking about calorie deficit and energy deficit stuff. How that what really forces the black bear, and this in a sense this is me kind of summarizing here too, getting near the end of my live stream. Remember, what really drives the black bears to go to den and to hibernate is if they can no longer consume the amount of calories and the energy that they need from their environment than what they're expending and what they're expelling, like from moving around. Or they're obviously burning calories and valuable fat reserves that they need when going into hibernation. And so if they're getting into that sort of energy deficit kind of state of being and calorie deficit state of being, then that's going to force them into hibernation. And so this is where they can turn the switch on and off. Let's say it's an odd winter. Like if you're living in an area in the nation where the winters are just harsh as could be, and there's several feet of snow for 3 months or longer, the black bear obviously are going to hibernate in that type of climate and environment. And they almost have to, because they're not able to find the food they need. They're not able to get the acorns and beech nuts and berries and plants and stuff to consume the calories they need each and every day. But if the black bear are living in the part of the nation where the winters are short, or where they're almost non-existent, where they can still go about scavenging in their environment and finding plenty to eat, then the black bear, in a sense, in all reality, do not need to hibernate. And if in the event that they do, it might only be for a month. It might only be for a week or two. And then they might reawaken to go about grazing again, feeding, milling around. So that's really cool that the black bear have that ability. I mean, how cool would that be if we could just, at the flip of the switch, be like, I'm gonna sleep for a month. Oh, okay, I'm gonna go hunting for a month. That's what I wish. I wish I could flip a switch that lets me be able to hunt for a month or 2 months at a time. So I need to, yeah, but that's not, obviously that's not reality. The number one, see where am I going with this? So the number one takeaway here from this live stream that I really want all of you bear hunters out there to take with you. I'm going to pause briefly to see who's on. We got LJ said hi. So LJC said, is 150 an 8-point whitetail good? So yeah, so LJC. So I think, was that in pounds? LJC, are you asking if 150-pound whitetail buck 8-point is good? Well, that's like definitely a good 2.5-year-old plus, and depending on where you're from, that could be a 3-year-old 8-pointer down in the southern portion of the United States. 120 to 150-pound 8-pointer down south could be a 3 to 4-year-old 8-pointer, depending on the size of the rack and stuff. And there's other telltale signs to tell if the deer is obviously old or not. I mean, well, this 8-pointer here I shot back in high school. They're here. These are a couple bucks I shot with my bow. I got a buck here I shot with my bow. The majority of what you see for deer antler here, I shot with a bow and arrow, except this one here. This was I believe to be a Maine 3-year-old deer that was about 175 pounds. So at probably 2 years old, his points were probably half that length. That he might have had 2 to 3 inches less on each point. He might have been a little narrower and less wide and thick on his main beams at 2.5 years old. This was a good representative of a 3.5-year-old 8-pointer in Maine that went about 170 pounds. That's a really good buck. I got another 8-pointer here that you can't see. Well, if I turn, here's an 8-pointer I shot with my bow. Shot these two with my bow, and another down there with my bow. I got some mounts over here, some buck mounts. I got more mounts coming. I just mounted my trophy 202-pound 9-point buck I shot with my bow this past deer season. I just finished mounting. I do my own taxidermy. He's downstairs in the basement on the stand still, and I gotta do the finishing work to him, and then soon he'll be on my wall. And I've got another 8-point buck I've got to mount that I shot a couple years ago. I got my son's deer to mount. Got a couple bear that I need to mount up. My bear from the last couple years that I shot, need to mount them. But yes, LJC, 150-pound 8-pointer whitetail is obviously good. And that, you didn't, oh wait, 150 is a 150-inch IN. That must mean inch. So he's talking inches. My word, that's a huge 8-pointer. If you're shooting 150-inch 8-pointers, that could be a 4-year-old deer right there. That's a really good buck to take. I hope you do shoot a 150-inch 8-point buck. What does a deer? So Steve Williams says, what does a bear need more? I already answered that question. So William says, I have heard of loggers cutting in winter and bears come running out of the tree. Yes, because I remember, William, I was talking about one of their denning type sites could be a hollowed out tree trunk. Obviously raccoons and opossums and other hibernating type critters and animals will use hollowed out tree trunks and holes in trees to to sleep and hide in and hibernate and stuff in. So, and bear do too. And so you have a loggers coming through, the fella buncher that's felling the trees, hence a fella buncher, toppling them trees over, and then the skidders are coming through, making all this commotion, logging and stuff, a logging operation going on. That's going to definitely awaken bear, hibernating bear in hollowed out trees, and probably in under rock crevices and stuff nearby, and ground nest type den sites. That's going to disturb them, get them up on their feet and moving and running out of there. And so, yeah, no, that's a common thing to happen in Maine. There's a lot of logging operations going on in Maine and in other northern states and stuff where that sort of thing can happen. So let's see, the last live stream last Monday, I went for like 50 minutes. And I'm nearing that. That's probably a good stopping point. It's almost my bedtime. 9:38 p.m. It's late. I need to get up early to hit the blueberry fields to do some spraying. I got to spray Propulse and fungicide on the prune blueberry fields so that we don't lose our future or next year's crop. So I gotta hit the hay soon. So I gotta get up early. But see, any further questions? So I was stating that before calling this live stream quits here, saying goodnight, that the takeaway I want all of you bear hunters out there to take from this live stream is that from what I said today, because we can use what I said today to our advantage as far as planning our future bear hunts. If it's a mild winter, let's say you have a bear tag, you want to go after a bear, and you want to do a fall bear hunt. This is the example I'm going to give. So let's see, when do acorns start falling in Maine, right? September, October. We can start hunting the black bear in Maine in September, like the last week of August, all through September and all through November. We can hunt black bear. We can't hunt black bear over bait or with hounds in November, but we can from middle of September through to like the end of October that we can hunt black bear with hounds and with dogs here in Maine. We can snare black bear too in the state of Maine from like September through October. But let's say you're planning a conventional hunt on black bear where you don't want to take one over bait or take one by way of trapping or take a bear by the way of hunting them with dogs. Then you can kind of see what the climate is. So you follow your weather closely, kind of pick your weeks accordingly. You might want to pick a week in September. Maybe early October is good. But maybe end of September, early October, when the acorn crop is still good, still plentiful, and those bear are feeding heavily on acorns and beech nuts, things like that. And and the blackberries and raspberries are abundant and stuff and such like that. And other vegetation, other berries and hard mass stuff that's available for them at that time of year is abundant. That's a good time to go about just spotting and stalking. Try and spot black bear on the ridges of the mountains, or try to find, just hit the ground running, man. You got to get boot leather on the ground and just do your thorough scouting. Clay Newcomb, these podcasts I listen to, and these biologists I listen to, and these people that I'm learning from, it's said that, man. I myself have never shot a black bear doing this, but I've walked up on black bear. I've gone in the forest. I've gone hiking, gone on hunts where I've stumbled upon slumbering black bear, where I was getting ready to step over a log and I almost stepped on a sleeping black bear. I've done that many times. I've seen plenty of black bear while out and about on the blueberry lands and stuff, and then the mountains around me. I've seen a lot of black bear. I just choose to take my black bear by way of like bait hunts. I've never shot black bear with hounds on dog hunts, but I'm not against that. I'm going. This is leading into a whole nother topic and debate and stuff here, but in a later live stream and later YouTube videos on my channel, Spikes and Gills, I'm going to go into thorough detail and depth on all these methods of taking black bears and why they're ethical and why they're necessary necessary wildlife conservation tool. But that's me going off on a tangent here. So what I want you to take away here is that you don't need to go after black bear by having a bait site and by having hounds and by having trapping gear. You can go and hunt black bear in the conventional method just by sitting in a tree stand overlooking a feed tree, acorns that are sweet that the bear are favoring, where there's still steaming bear scat and total tons of fresh bear sign all around you, and it's just screaming, sit here now, put your time in here now. The black bear in these fall months, they need, remember what I said, they need 30,000 plus calories a day. They need so much food. They're going to feed at all different times of the day in a 24-hour time span. They're gonna, so if you hung a stand overlooking a hot feed tree where there's like maybe some natural springs nearby, where there's water trickling stream nearby, where the bear able to drink right after consuming all those calories, and they got all that food right there, all the bear sign around you saying, sit here now. You can hunt that bear as you would a deer and be successful and shoot a bear that way. But it is extremely tough to come upon that type of sign. You could, Clay Newcomb himself, I keep mentioning his name, he's gone on bear hunts where that's what he did. He wasn't baiting, he wasn't hunting with dogs, he wasn't trapping. And he's been skunked, he's ate tag soup, but he's gone to bear-rich environments, areas where that are known to have black bear, and he's looked for that type of sign, looked for those feed trees, those ridges and mountaintops that had hard mass and had boiling water springs and stuff. Plenty of vegetation and natural bear feed around. He looked for fresh bear sign to tell him, okay, I need to put my time in here. And he had no luck. And it can happen. I'm going to, so I went over my quote. I went over 50 minutes, so I've got to end here. But I'm going to, in probably the next live stream, next Monday, and future videos to come on my channel, I'm going to talk about black bears' home ranges and black bear population densities and stuff, as learned from Myron Means, Sarah Lida, Clay Newcomb, and things I've read and podcasts I listen to. So I've got all this information as well boiling in my head I want to share with you about black bear. So definitely chime in next Monday on the next live stream. And definitely subscribe to Spikes and Gills before you go. Everybody click like if you could on this video before you go. I'd appreciate it. And before I go, I'll make sure I answer everyone's question. Are you baiting Saturday? He's saying, if I have time, I'm going to be spraying. William, I'll be in a John Deere 100-foot boom sprayer that you could park a car under. I'll be probably spraying blueberry fields, but I do plan on this week going to my bait sites, my honey hole bait site, and one other I'm going to run. I'm going to bait this year and get them prepped and set up. I got to check my stands and set up stands and get the site set up, put a trail camera in there, get it as scent free as possible. I like to set out everything up, the stand and trail camera, way ahead in advance before I ever put bait in there. I try to desensify, make my camera and stand scent free as possible, so the bear don't hone in and find my exact sit spot, so they don't know that my stand's there, and so they don't know my trail camera's there and stuff. But that's extremely difficult to do 100%, make things scent free 100%. I normally always have at least one bear find my trail camera and bat it, sniff it, move it around, bat it around the tree trunk and stuff. That's almost always going to happen with a trail camera. But I'm good at hiding my stands though, not having the bear find my stand site. But I might start pre-baiting Saturday. We'll see. It's time. It's all dependent on what I got for time. A lot of times I don't even bait the first week. Might get heavily into baiting towards the second week of pre-baiting before the season, and then I'll bait every day right through to opening day. But we'll see. So how about you, William? I'm sure that's a yes. You'll be out there baiting Saturday. Any other questions? So William, I want you to be back on here next Monday night. Be looking for the live stream next Monday. We're going to talk more black bears and bring some more questions. And let's see, next Monday night, that'll be after the first day of pre-baiting here in Maine, I assume. So then you can maybe talk about your bait site a little bit. We can go over baiting, some baiting strategy and stuff. But I want to talk about bear population, bear density, population stuff in general, bears home ranges in the next live stream, and go into some, probably a little bit of some, talk about some bear hunting strategies and stuff. All right, everybody. So click like before you go. Great, appreciate it. Subscribe to Spikes and Gills. Click the notification bell so you'll be notified of all future uploads on the Spikes and Gills YouTube channel. The next series of videos uploaded on the channel will be all about black bear hunting, anything to do with black bear. It could be a video or talking about a current event around black bear, current research and stuff going on about black bear, that, and about like the Western Bear Foundation or any bear foundation for that matter, such and so forth, so on. So, but definitely subscribe, click like. See you all next time.